My name is Michael Elizondo Jr. and I currently live in El Reno, Oklahoma. As far back as I can remember, art has been a part of my life, and I always make mention when sharing my experience that I don't have a memory of starting as an artist. Growing up, my dad, he was a commercial artist, and when I was 7 years old, he enrolled into Northeastern State University in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. In that time, he had a lot of art supplies on hand, and as a child, I used to get into his toolboxes and all his supplies. Sometimes I would make a mess of things and get into trouble, but other times I was able to keep it clean, and he just allowed me to work with all these different mediums growing up. Whenever I became a college student, I got into being an art major myself. It was fun to be able to experiment with a number of different mediums, everything from printmaking to ceramics to stained glass, and today everything reverts back to what I did the most of when I was a kid, which is drawing and painting. The newest branch of my work is just now beginning to surface. Over the past year and a half, I've began a series of drawings that I like to call Gettin Realism. And it's a humorous branch of artwork that I've been doing, that I've been combining a lot of my different influences that I've done over the years. Everything from portraiture to abstraction to surrealism to all kinds of different topics of Native American culture. The big idea behind the work is, as well as the demo that I'm going to do, is all inspired from my experience of learning and working with the Cheyenne language. Today I currently work with my tribe's language department, the Cheyenne and Arapaho language department, and all around this continent there's endangered languages from different indigenous cultures, and the Cheyenne language being a part of that category. I once heard it said that when a language disappears, so does that culture's worldview. And the question that began to spark with this body of work was, what does the Cheyenne language worldview look like? And so I just want to share that with you all to ask a question. What does your language, or what does your language's worldview look like? When I see Cheyenne conversations, there's always a lot of humor and there's always a lot of teasing. And so I wanted to learn how to express that in these works, and how to use a number of different metaphors and sayings that we say in the Cheyenne language. I have 4 grandparents that were all bilingual, and so language has always been an interesting topic for me ever since I was a kid. Fortunately, I have one grandparent that's still with us, and that's my mother's mother. She enjoys speaking our Cheyenne language and also telling stories about our culture. What I've learned over the years is when hearing the language, there's always a lot of use of metaphors. One of my favorite metaphors that I like to hear is a use of an animal, and it's the coyote. The coyote is mentioned in a lot of our stories, and he's known as a trickster. And today in our community, a lot of people like to reference someone who acts like a coyote, and how you say that in Cheyenne is okom. And so whenever I'm teasing around with my brothers, I'll say, man, this guy's acting like an okom. I have one drawing that I did that I titled The Seasoned One. And with that drawing, I wanted to find a way to envision if someone was a coyote, what would it look like? And the coyote, he's mischievous and he's sly. I wanted to express, well, if this guy was a coyote, and I was to encounter him, what would his stance be? And so that's what I wanted to express in that piece. So whenever I began working with my tribe's language department, I had a group of elders with me, and I was trying to learn as many terms as I could in related to driving. So I was looking at a car, and I was learning how to say get in the car, it one inch, and get off the car, home it one inch. And then I was looking at the car, and I said, how would you say tire in the Cheyenne language? And one of the elders kind of laughed and said, it's sick. And whenever that was said, another elder kind of laughed and said, that means leg. And so I started thinking, just right off the bat about a car that had 4 legs. Since then, just the humor of the language has kind of allowed it to stick in my memory. And I've never forgot those words, hitsik and hitsikons. And a lot of Native people like to refer to their vehicles as a war pony. And so just thinking, what does the Cheyenne language look like if it was taken literally? I drew these 2 individuals in this drawing called the store run. They're riding their war pony into town to go after groceries or whatever it is they're going to get. And on the tag and on the bumper, I wrote in letters Moitna, which means horse. And so this is an example of what I've done to kind of combine this thought of what a language looks like if it was taken literally, as well as what is the worldview the Cheyenne language look like. My question to you is, what kind of metaphors or sayings can you use within the language or languages that you speak? One drawing sparks off more ideas for another. And to give an example of that, I'm going to do another drawing that feeds off of the piece of work that I talked about earlier, which was titled The Store Run. Whenever I created that piece, I would get a lot of comments about, hey, well, what if this happened or what if that happened? And I used an old vehicle for that drawing, and somebody asked me, well, what if you use like a sports car? What would that look like? And I started thinking about what kind of legs I would use if I were to use a sports car. And then I said, yeah, I could do that. I said I could also do an old beat up res car if I wanted to. And we all started laughing. I was like, well, I would have to use different kind of legs. I'd probably have to bust out headlights and all those things. So just the imagination just began to spark off whenever I started to think of different ideas and possibilities I can do if I were to make another series of just doing cars as well. And so with that, I always like to use a starting point. And so I have a picture of a frog here, and then I have a picture of a car that I want to use. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with my demo portion of this, and as I go along, I'll kind of fill you in with some of the decisions that I made for the image. As I mentioned, just think about some metaphors and think about some sayings that you might know. Like I said, whether it's just English or if you know any other languages. Examples in the English language, you hear a lot of sayings like "when pigs fly," or "I'm freezing," or "it's raining cats and dogs." And so a lot of these sayings that I'm pulling out are the same, and so something similar that I want to include this frog in the image is that, an image like this, when would we really see it in reality? And there's a saying in the Cheyenne language that I've heard that translates to when frogs have teeth, and that's similar to saying when pigs fly. And so think about things in those terms, and basically the main thing is to have fun, let your imagination run away, and get as real as you need.